The emergency klaxons blared through Captain Varella's ship, their urgent wailing piercing her pointed ears. Red warning lights bathed the cockpit in an ominous glow as her fingers flew across the control panel, desperately trying to stabilize the failing systems. "Computer, status report," she barked, her voice maintaining the disciplined calm that had earned her command despite the chaos erupting around her. "Engine core breach imminent. Coolant systems failing. Structural integrity at 43%, the artificial voice responded with mechanical indifference. Varela gritted her teeth, the silvery scales along her temples flashing with stress patterns. As a Krelashian officer, she had been bred for precision, trained for excellence, and had never faced failure in her distinguished career patrolling the Outer Rim. Yet here she was, her ship, her pride, disintegrating around her. The nearest Krelashian outpost was 3 sectors away. Too far. Her options dwindled with each passing second. "Computer, identify nearest habitable planet within emergency landing range." Scanning. Planet Terrace, 9. Classification. Fringe settlement. Primarily human population. Limited technological infrastructure. Varela hissed. Humans. Emotional, unpredictable, and worst of all, informal to the point of disrespect. But she had no choice. Plot emergency landing trajectory to least populated area. As the ship plummeted through the atmosphere, heat blazed across the view screen. Varela strapped herself tightly into the command chair, her 7-fingered hands gripping the manual controls. The ground rushed toward her with alarming speed. At the last moment, she pulled up, transforming what would have been a fatal crash into merely a catastrophic landing. The impact slammed her forward, the restraints cutting into her hardened exoskeleton. For several moments, she hung suspended in the darkness, the silence broken only by the hiss of ruptured pipes and the crackle of electrical fires. When consciousness fully returned, Varela assessed her situation with methodical precision. 3 minor lacerations. 1 potential fracture in her secondary arm. Survivable. The ship was another matter. The engine core had completely failed, leaving her stranded on this backwater planet. After applying emergency medical sealant to her wounds, she gathered her survival pack and plasma sidearm. The air outside was thinner than her homeworld, but breathable. According to her scanner, a structure lay 2 kilometers to the north, her best chance for assistance. The journey was arduous, each step sending waves of pain through her injured limb. The twin suns beat down mercilessly on her cooling-adapted physiology. By the time the structure came into view, a sprawling collection of mismatched metal buildings surrounded by spacecraft parts, her silver skin had dulled to an unhealthy gray. A weathered sign read, "Jace's Repairs. If it flies, I can fix it." Below, in smaller letters, "Probably." Varela's crest ridges flattened in disapproval. The placement lacked symmetry. The humor was unnecessary. Nevertheless, she approached the main building, her military training automatically calculating defensive positions and escape routes. The door slid open before she could announce herself. A human male stood in the entrance, wiping grease from his hands with a stained cloth. He was tall for his species, with unruly brown hair tied back haphazardly and a short beard that looked more like neglect than intention. His eyes, an unsettling blue, widened at the sight of her. "Well," he said, letting out a low whistle, "don't see many Krelashian military types out here. Especially not looking like they've been chewed up and spat out by a Gorgon beast." Varela stiffened, her posture automatically shifting to formal address despite her weakened state. "I am Captain Varela Naxmorden of the Krelashian Defense Fleet. My vessel has suffered critical engine failure and requires immediate repair." The human's mouth quirked upward at one corner, not the respectful response her rank demanded. "I'm Jace," he said simply, tossing the rag over his shoulder. "And by the looks of you, what you need immediate is medical attention, not ship repair. Engine's not going anywhere." Before she could protest that her injuries were inconsequential, the ground seemed to tilt beneath her. The last thing Varela saw before darkness claimed her was the human lunging forward to catch her as she fell, an indignity that would haunt her long after the physical pain had faded. Varela awoke on a worn but clean cot, her wounds expertly dressed. The indignity of collapsing before a human burned worse than her injuries. She bolted upright, immediately regretting the sudden movement as pain lanced through her side. "Whoa there, Captain. Those biopatches need another hour to set," Jace said, entering the room with a steaming mug. "Military types, always in a rush." "How long have I been unconscious?" she demanded, ignoring the offered drink. "About 6 hours." Enough time for me to patch you up and take a look at your ship. He set the mug down and leaned against the workbench, crossing his arms. Gotta say, you brought her down pretty impressively. Not many pilots could have managed that landing. Varella's crest ridges lifted slightly at the compliment before she forced them flat again. The ship. Is it reparable? Jace scratched his beard thoughtfully. Core's completely fried. Coolant systems shot. Navigational array looks like it went 10 rounds with a Caldari warship. He shrugged. But yeah, it's fixable. Most things are. How long? 3 weeks, give or take. Unacceptable. Varela stood, ignoring the pain. I must return to my fleet immediately. The Krelashian Defense Force does not tolerate extended absences. Jace didn't seem intimidated by her authoritative tone. Well, unless your people invented teleportation since I left Alliance space, you're stuck here until I can rebuild that engine core. Physics doesn't negotiate, Captain. Her 7 fingers curled into fists. Perhaps you require motivation to work more efficiently. The human actually laughed. Threats? Really? Look around, Captain. He gestured to his workshop. I'm the only mechanic within 500 kilometers with the skills to fix your ship. And I work at my own pace. Varela surveyed the space for the first time. Despite its chaotic appearance, she recognized advanced tools arranged in logical patterns. Holographic schematics of various engine types hovered over workstations. Most telling were the military commendations half hidden behind spare parts, Alliance Engineering Corps medals of distinction. You were military, she observed. Another lifetime ago. His voice cooled. Now I just fix things. Speaking of which, I need to know exactly what happened before the crash. Engine failures like yours don't just happen. Varela hesitated. Sharing military intelligence with an outsider violated protocol. Yet without his help, she was stranded. I was on a routine patrol near the Vega Nebula when the engine began overheating without warning. The failsafes triggered, but then failed themselves. Jace frowned. That's unusual. Sounds like sabotage. Impossible. No one had access to my ship but me. Well, something caused catastrophic failure. I'll need your authorization codes to access the diagnostic systems. Varela stiffened. Absolutely not. That would violate 17 different security protocols. Then I can't fully repair your ship. He shrugged again, the casual gesture infuriating her. Your choice, Captain. They glared at each other for several tense moments before Varela grudgingly conceded the practical necessity. Limited access only, and I will monitor your every move. Wouldn't expect anything less. Jace grinned, picking up a toolkit. We'll start tomorrow. Tonight, you need rest and food. Ever had human cuisine? The thought horrified her. I will consume my own rations. Suit yourself, but they won't last 3 weeks. He headed for the door. By the way, your uniform's been cleaned. It's folded on that chair. Bathroom's through that door if you want to wash up. After he left, Varela examined her bandages. The human's medical work was surprisingly precise, each biopatch perfectly aligned with her exoskeletal plates. Perhaps he wasn't completely incompetent. The next morning, they trudged to her crash site in uncomfortable silence. When the wreckage came into view, Varela's heart sank. Seeing her proud vessel half buried in soil, its sleek hull torn open, was like witnessing a fallen warrior. Jace whistled low. She's a beauty. Krelashian Raptor-class patrol vessel, right? Don't see many of those out here. You recognize my ship's class? Varela couldn't hide her surprise. I fixed every kind of spacecraft there is. He began circling the wreckage, his keen eyes assessing the damage. Had a Krelashian ambassador bring in his personal shuttle once. Prissy fellow complained about my disorganized methodology until I shaved 3 days off his expected repair time. Despite herself, Varela's mouth twitched. The description matched Ambassador Krell perfectly. For the next several hours, they worked together extracting critical components from the wreckage. Though she loathed admitting it, Jace's expertise was impressive. His hands moved with practiced precision, sometimes anticipating her needs before she voiced them. You know, he said as they carefully disconnected the damaged core. For someone who crashed her ship, you're a damn good engineer yourself. All Krelashian officers are trained in emergency repairs, she replied, then added. But my proficiency exceeds standard requirements. Jace laughed. Was that actual pride I detected, Captain? I thought emotions were considered inefficient in your culture. Varela stiffened. Recognizing one's abilities is not emotional. It is factual assessment. If you say so. His eyes sparkled with amusement as he hefted a salvaged component. Let's get these back to the workshop. We've got a long road ahead of us, Captain. Might be easier if you stop looking at me like I'm something you scraped off your boot. Varela wanted to deliver a cutting retort, but found herself momentarily distracted by the way the setting sun highlighted the human's features. An odd sensation fluttered in her chest, one her rigorous training had never prepared her for. I will attempt more professional courtesy, she finally said. Jace's genuine smile in response was somehow more unsettling than his sarcasm had been. Days blended together as Varela adjusted to life at Jace's compound. Each morning, they would work on salvaging components from her ship before returning to his workshop for the intricate task of rebuilding the engine core. The human's expertise continued to surprise her. His hands worked with a precision that rivaled the best Krelashian engineers. Where did you learn such skills? She asked on the 5th day, watching him delicately rewire a complex circuit node. Alliance Engineering Corps taught me the basics. Jace didn't look up from his work. But the really good stuff? Learned that from necessity. When you're stranded behind enemy lines with a damaged escape pod and nothing but scraps, you get creative or you die. You were in combat? 12 years. Vega conflict and the Morian border wars. His voice remained casual, but she noticed the subtle tightening of his shoulders. Got tired of fixing things just so people could blow them up again. Varela processed this information. Among her people, military service was the highest honor. Abandoning it was inconceivable. Your superiors allowed you to simply leave. Jace's laugh held no humor. Let's just say we had different opinions about acceptable casualties. He changed the subject abruptly. Hand me that plasma cutter, would you? As days passed, Varela found herself studying the human when he wasn't looking. His movements held a confident grace that contradicted his scruffy appearance. More confusing was his constant stream of conversation, comments, questions, jokes that served no practical purpose yet somehow made the tedious work less arduous. During their 10th day of repairs, heavy rain confined them to the workshop. After hours of detailed calibration work, Jay stretched and declared, break time. My eyes are crossing. To Varela's horror, he produced a bottle of amber liquid in 2 glasses. I cannot consume alcohol during a mission, she stated firmly. Is it still a mission if your ship's in pieces? Jace poured himself a drink. Besides, this stuff's barely alcoholic. Local brew. Call it a cultural exchange. Cultural exchange serves no purpose in our current arrangement. Jace sighed. Has anyone ever told you that you're exhausting to talk to? All regulations and no conversation. The comment stung unexpectedly. Krelaxians value efficiency in communication. There's more to life than efficiency, Captain. He took a seat across from her, studying her face. Don't you ever get tired of being perfect all the time? Perfection is expected, not achieved, she recited automatically. The pursuit of excellence is the duty of all Krelaxians. Sounds lonely. The simple observation struck her like a physical blow. Before she could formulate an appropriately detached response, Jace continued. So what's your story? Beyond the uniform and the regulations, what made you become a captain? I was selected for command based on aptitude testing and performance metrics. That's not what I asked. His blue eyes held hers steadily. What do you love about it? Love? The concept seemed foreign in relation to duty. Yet as she considered his question, unexpected words formed. The stars, she said quietly. The silence of deep space. The moment when a vessel responds perfectly to command. To her shock, her crest ridges fluttered with emotion. The freedom. Jace smiled. Not his usual sardonic grin, but something gentler. Now that sounded like Varela talking, not Captain Varela. She found herself unable to maintain her usual rigid posture. Is there a difference? Huge difference. One's a person. One's a rank. He leaned forward. I'd like to get to know the person. The conversation shifted to safer topics, stellar navigation, the differences in their species' technologies. Somehow, Varela found herself accepting a small glass of the amber liquid, just to analyze its chemical properties, she insisted. The drink was surprisingly pleasant, warming her from within. More surprising was the sound that escaped her when Jace recounted a disastrous repair job involving a diplomat's luxury cruiser and a misplaced socket wrench. The noise, half chirp, half trill, shocked them both into silence. Was that a laugh? Jace asked incredulously. Varela's scales flushed deep blue with embarrassment. A respiratory anomaly. His smile widened. Well, that respiratory anomaly was beautiful. Later that night, Alone in her makeshift quarters, Varela performed her meditation rituals with less focus than usual. The human's words echoed in her mind. Beautiful. No one had ever described anything about her that way. In Krelashian society, she was evaluated on efficiency, skill, and adherence to protocol, never on something as subjective as beauty. For the first time in her life, she questioned whether the rigid structure of her existence was truly all there could be. The thought was as terrifying as it was exhilarating. The next morning, when Jace greeted her with his usual irreverent smile, she did something unprecedented in her military career. She smiled back. 2 weeks into the repairs, a fierce electrical storm forced them to remain indoors. The workshop's lighting flickered as thunder rumbled overhead, the planet's unpredictable weather systems unleashing their fury. That's it for today, Jace announced, securing the delicate components they'd been working on. Can't risk power surges with the calibration equipment. Varela frowned. Every delay extends my absence from duty. Would you prefer I rush and fry the new core? When she didn't answer, he softened his tone. Come on. Even Krelashian super soldiers need downtime. I've got something to show you. Curious despite herself, she followed him to a part of his home she hadn't yet seen. The room was small but comfortable, with viewing windows that displayed the storm's dramatic lightning against the darkening sky. What caught her attention was the collection of objects covering nearly every surface, items from dozens of worlds and species. You're a collector, she observed, examining a crystalline structure she recognized from the Andromeda colonies. Souvenirs. Jace picked up a weathered metal batch. Every repair job, every client leaves something behind. Stories, mostly. Sometimes actual objects. Varela moved carefully through the space, her warrior's training making her acutely aware of Jace's proximity in the confined area. The human had removed his work jacket, and she found herself distracted by the defined musculature of his arms. A purely anatomical interest, she told herself. This is Krelashian, she said suddenly, spotting a familiar ceremonial dagger in a display case. Gift from that ambassador I mentioned. Said-eyed, displayed honor worthy of recognition by fixing his ship before some important conference. Jace stood beside her, close enough that she could feel his body heat. What does the inscription say? The proximity was affecting her concentration. It honors one who creates order from chaos. She turned to face him. A fitting description of your work. High praise from a Krelashian captain. His voice had lowered, the usual sarcasm absent. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating his features. In that moment, Varela saw beyond the scruffy exterior to something that resonated with her own carefully hidden truths. Dedication, discipline beneath the casual demeanor, and fierce independence. Your people would not understand why you live this way, she said quietly. Just as mine would not understand. Understand what? How I have come to respect someone so different from Krelashian ideals. Jace's smile was gentle. That's growth, Captain. Realizing the universe is bigger than one set of ideals. His hand brushed hers as he reached for another artifact, and the contact sent an unexpected current through her that had nothing to do with the storm outside. Neither of them moved to break the connection. Varela, she said softly. When we are not working, perhaps you could call me Varela. The space between them seemed charged with possibility. Jace's eyes searched hers, and she found herself unable to look away. Varela, he repeated, her name sounding different in his human intonation. I think there's a lot more to you than regulations and duty. I am beginning to realize there is more to you than irreverence and disorder, she countered, surprised by her own boldness. His laugh was low and warm. Quite the compliment. What happened next defied all her training. Her hand, moved by impulse rather than calculated decision, reached up to touch his face, her silver fingers contrasting against his tanned skin. The gesture was forbidden in Krelashian culture outside of familial bonds or formal mating rituals. Yet it felt undeniably right. Jace remained perfectly still, letting her explore this new territory at her own pace. When his hand finally rose to cover hers, the contact was electrifying. This is inappropriate, she whispered, not pulling away. Probably, he agreed, moving closer. Going to report me for fraternization? The teasing question broke the last of her resistance. There would be extensive paperwork. His startled laugh was cut short as she closed the distance between them. The kiss was tentative at first, an exploration of foreign territory. The differences in their physiologies created novel sensations as his lips met hers, soft where she was firm, warm where she was cool. When they separated, Varella's crest ridges were fully extended, an involuntary display of emotional intensity that would have brought shame in her home culture. Here, in this moment, she felt only liberation. That was. Jace seemed uncharacteristically lost for words. An experiment, she supplied, her voice unsteady. Did it yield sufficient data? His smile returned, though his eyes remained serious. Further investigation may be required. Her formal phrasing contrasted with the decidedly informal way she drew him closer. The storm outside intensified, but neither noticed as boundaries, physical and cultural, dissolved between them. Hands explored unfamiliar terrain with increasing confidence. Whispered questions and reassurances guided them through the differences in their bodies. Later, as they lay entwined in the soft darkness, listening to the storm's retreat, Varela experienced an unfamiliar peace. The rigid compartments of her mind, duty, honor, protocol, had been rearranged into something new that somehow felt more complete. What happens when your ship is fixed? Jace asked quietly, his fingers tracing the luminescent patterns along her shoulder. Reality crashed back with brutal force. Her people would never understand or accept what had happened between them. Relationships with non-Krelaxians were strongly discouraged. Intimate contact with humans was practically taboo. I must return to my duties, she said, her voice unconsciously slipping back into its formal cadence. Jace propped himself up on one elbow, studying her face. Just like that? Back to being the perfect Krelaxian officer as if none of this happened. What alternative exists? The question wasn't rhetorical. For the first time in her life, she genuinely didn't know the answer. The engine core gleamed with new components, a testament to their combined skills. After 3 weeks of intensive work, the repairs were complete. Varella's ship, once broken beyond recognition, now stood ready for departure, its systems humming with restored power. Final diagnostics check complete, she announced, studying the readouts on her wrist console. All systems functional. Told you I could fix it. Jace leaned against the hull, arms crossed, his casual posture belying the tension in his voice. Guess you'll be rejoining your fleet soon. The words hung between them, heavy with everything left unsaid. In the 10 days since the storm, their connection had deepened beyond physical intimacy. Jace had shown her that efficiency wasn't everything, that laughter, spontaneity, and even occasional disorder could enrich rather than detract from life. For the first time, the thought of returning to her regimented existence filled her with dread rather than pride. I have composed my report to command, she said carefully. I will recommend this outpost for official alliance recognition. The technical expertise here is invaluable. Jace's expression hardened slightly. Is that all I am now? A technical resource to be noted in an official report? You know that is not true. Varela struggled to articulate feelings she had never been taught to express. But I have responsibilities. Obligations. To a system that would reduce everything we've shared to a security breach. He pushed away from the ship, pacing. Do you know what happens to humans who get too close to Krelaxian military secrets, Varela? I've seen it. Your people aren't exactly known for their forgiveness. The accusation stung because she knew it was true. Krelaxian security protocols were absolute. Any non-military personnel with access to restricted technology or information was considered a potential threat. The standard procedure was memory wiping at best, elimination at worst. I would never allow harm to come to you, she insisted. It wouldn't be your choice. Jace's eyes held hers. The moment your people arrive, I become a liability. The truth of his words settled like a weight on her chest. She had been so focused on returning to duty that she hadn't fully considered the consequences for Jace. Her people would never simply leave behind a human who had access to military vessel systems. Before she could respond, her emergency beacon activated. A harsh beeping filled the air as a message scrolled across her wrist display. Recovery team inbound. ETA 30 minutes. Maintain position. They stared at each other, the moment of decision suddenly, brutally present. That was fast, Jace said quietly. Guess they were already looking for you. Standard protocol. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. All patrol vessels are tracked. Once my ship systems came online, they would have detected the signal immediately. So this is it. He didn't phrase it as a question. You go back to being Captain Varela, and I get my mind wiped, or worse, for the crime of helping you. The unfairness of it struck her like a physical blow. This human had saved her life, repaired her ship, and shown her a way of existing she had never imagined possible. And her people would reward him with violation or death. There is another option. The words emerged before she had fully formed the thought. I'm listening. We disable the transponder and go. Her heart's raced at the enormity of what she was suggesting. Your ship is capable of interstellar travel? Yes? Jay stared at her, shock evident on his features. You desert? Throw away your career, your standing, everything you've worked for. I would choose freedom. She moved closer, taking his hands in hers. You showed me there is more to existence than following orders and protocols. If I return now, knowing what I know, I will never truly be Krelashian again. Nor do I wish to be, if it means losing this new understanding. The emotion in his eyes mirrored her own internal storm. Where would we go? The outer colonies accept all species. We both have skills that would be valued. Her crest ridges fluttered with nervous energy. It will not be easy. We will be fugitives from my people. I'm pretty good at staying off the radar. A smile slowly spread across his face. And I do have a fully stocked ship ready to go. The decision crystallized in her mind with surprising clarity. Her entire life had been dictated by duty and honor as defined by her culture. But perhaps true honor lay in following one's own path, in defending connection rather than protocol. We have 25 minutes to gather what we need and depart, she said, already mentally calculating the fastest route to safety. Jace pulled her into an embrace. You sure about this? It's a big universe out there. I am sure about you, she answered simply. The rest we will discover together. They worked with military precision, loading essential supplies into Jace's ship, a modified transport vessel he'd rebuilt from salvage. As Varela transferred her personal data core from her repaired ship, she left behind her formal insignia and rank badges, the physical representation of her former life. With minutes to spare, they completed the launch sequence. Through the view screen, Varela watched her patrol vessel grow smaller, along with the life she was leaving behind. Recovery team will be here soon, Jace noted, setting coordinates for their jump. Having second thoughts? Varela took the co-pilot's seat, her silver hands moving confidently across unfamiliar controls. In that moment, she felt more alive than in all her years of disciplined service. No, she said with certainty. For the first time, I am thinking clearly. As the stars stretched into lines around them, Captain Varela ceased to exist. In her place sat simply Varela, no longer defined by rank or species or protocol, but by the connections she chose and the freedom she had claimed. The ship, their ship, leapt into hyperspace, carrying them toward an uncertain future that held something her previous existence never could: possibility. Behind them, the recovery team would find only an empty workshop, a repaired but abandoned patrol vessel, and a mystery that the rigid Krelashian hierarchy would never truly understand.